Huge. Insane.
I'm gonna go downstairs and I'm gonna turn that music downstairs. I need 30 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me, and I hope that we are live as I think we are. So Scott Mckay is joining me. He will be here in just a minute. And we had a little rocky start with things not working as normal. So I think we're good. Let me see if there's anyone in the chat. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to advertise this in advance. So just maybe I'll put it on my. So I'm waiting for Scott to show up. Hopefully, nothing's going to interrupt that. I'm going to put this on Facebook while I'm waiting.
Tomahawk.
Patriot Street Fighter.
Street Fighter's one word.
Got it. Okay. Hold on a second. That doesn't look right. Okay. Hold on one second. And we're live right now, Scott, just so you know.
Okay.
We did get this to work live. While I was waiting for you, I was just posting this to Facebook so that people can see it. So just one second, I'll have this done. Got it. Okay. So great to have you here, Scott. And are you
Good to see
ready?
you. I'm ready.
Okay. Uh, so anyway, this will be live after, the show it'll still be on Rumble. So we're on Rumble right now. And so Patriot Street Fighter is Scott Mckay, and he is actually become quite famous. He tours the United States a lot, I understand, and maybe he can tell you a little bit more about that. I certainly couldn't do that. I don't know why he's always doing that, but he is always doing that. So he can explain. And Scott, why don't you start off with that? Because I think maybe other people besides me are just wondering why do you keep touring? What's your deal?
Well, primarily because we had great a great movement begin, a little more than 5 years ago, and in the ensuing years. And of course, people came out for the first time I've seen in my political and post-political life where they actually came out into the public forum to start pushing back on this crime syndicate called government. And I say that with all sincerity. It's an organized crime syndicate. And I started to tell my audience that on a radio show 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago on the tipping point, January 2020, I started it for the purpose of saying things that nobody ever wants to say. So I started raining a shitstorm down. And 10 months later, the election was stolen, which I predicted it would be, and that Fox News would stab Trump in the back before it was all over, and they did on election day. So then a week later, I decided that I would figure out how YouTube worked, figure out how to live stream. I had a channel, had 1,000 subscribers that were listening to the radio shows that I would upload after the show was over. And so I could enable that. And it was the first time I ever did a live stream, and it just went completely vertical, went all over the world. I was explaining this de facto military operation, but I watch people become massively engaged, walking away from mainstream media, coming to the podcast world where they're getting the truth and the information on the dynamic at that time. And they've stayed here. Sasha Stone and I went on tour. Actually, it was Robert David Steele was promoting a national tour called the Arise USA tour, and I'd already talked, had mentioned my audience. I was thinking about doing a national tour. Patriot Streetfighter had become extremely big very fast, and I thought it'd be good to be out there to meet the people face to face because, again, when somebody's seeing you on a camera, that's one thing, and we can just do that. For me, given my background and what I've done in my life, it made sense to be face to face with people because when they can see you, touch you, talk to you person to person, they know that you're truly invested in them, not just broadcasting and having them watch you. So, a great expense for the last 5 years, 4.5 years. I've traveled the country even after the activities slowed down because I believe I need to keep priming that pump. A lot of what I've done in the last 3 years has been speaking to tactical civics groups around the country because we ignited that movement back in 2022, 2023. And that is a movement to bring back the county grand jury, the constitutional framework. The county grand jury has the power. It's got more power than the Supreme Court per the Constitution. The certified standing militia being a requirement, a constitutional duty of every grand jury in every county to handle the business of the grand jury, whether it be, serving warrants, searches, making arrests, filing a presentment, whatever it is. That certified standing militia is the architecture of the United States, whereby we, the people, keep control of our nation, specifically from the people we elect to government. So, watching this thing morph from after they've been at it for about 17 years, developing the plan for this, all the research. Then 4 years prior to me showing up, they ended up with about 150 counties with a chapter out of 3,143, and they had 600 people. And then when I brought David Zuniga on, after I discovered this compendium, a year or two before, thought it was fascinating. I brought him on. It got my audience's attention. I sort of had a rally cry on this movement. And then within a year, it rocketed to over half the counties in the country had a chapter and about 8,000 people. So, again, being out there face to face, continuing to fuel that movement was pretty critical, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, we, the people, have to, the president can't restore the republic. He doesn't have the constitutional power. The people that can restore the public are the people. We, the people, have that power. So, and I just feel that although people are awake, until they decide to do something, to stand up, to use their voice, to get involved in counties. We can't take this monster down from the top down, from the federal down. It's too big. It's a Goliath. But we can take back the foundation. And once we take back the foundation, that's counties. It'll go like wildfire. We have a grand jury proceeding in a county with the certified standing militia backing up the proceedings, so none of their corporations can come in and try to say, hey, you can't do that, right? Well, they have the power, they have the numbers, and we have some crooked politician that has to face a grand jury at home, and they, present them, put them on trial, and then convict them, which wouldn't be hard to do, convicting all of them in DC, because if, and this is per the Constitution, if we elect an official to office and they do anything, including supporting, writing, sponsoring, voting for any law that's outside of the 17 enumerated powers given them by the Constitution, it's an act of treason and requires a trial. So once you incarcerate or put somebody in prison, one of these politicians, you're putting them all on notice now. And you're also showing other counties around the country, here's how it's done. Because the political class are never going to police themselves. The corrupt judges, the corrupt law enforcement, none of these people, corrupt DA, they're all together. Not one of these are going to step out and start bringing justice to the others because they're all in the same machine. They're all part of the same machine. They've accepted it as quote unquote American constitutional law. It's not. So, anyways, that's what perpetuated me being out there traveling around the country and, of course, getting face to face with people.
Okay, but let me ask you, so this thing that you're saying, this arrest kind of thing, uh, has it happened?
No, no. The architecture has to be resurrected first, and that is bringing back the county grand juries.
Uh,
So the plan, the tactical civics plan, is to get 0.5% of the population in a county as a chapter member. And so once you have those numbers, and I don't know how many counties it would really take to create the momentum, but you need that many people to then bring forth a proposal to the local, whatever you want to call them, the local corporate controllers, whether it's a city, town council, commission, whatever it is, board of supervisors, and um, encourage, force. Force means with a lot of people showing up and saying, we want this to pass an ordinance that allows for this county citizens grand jury is really what it is among we the people. That has to be done first. So that way it gives it a legitimacy whereby the current governing body isn't going to be trying to run interference and say, hey, no, no, you can't do that here. We can do anything we want in any town or county we want if we simply remove the people that are taking away our rights and putting in people that understand what our rights are and allowing us to maintain and exercise those rights. So it's not an easy overnight thing to do. The plan's simple, but it's not obviously an easy thing to do.
okay,
It's
so
take
just
some
out of
time.
curiosity, did you ever run that by Juan?
No, but everybody, virtually everybody in that space in the country knows what I've been doing for the last 3 years in terms of tactical civics. It's not a secret.
Okay, so, but well, Juan's a lawyer. You and I both know that. And so I think it would behoove you to talk to him straight on about this. I'm concerned that, I don't know, I'm not really educated as to local politics whatsoever. I can say that my understanding is the sheriff has some big control in, on the local level. I don't know how much that's been exercised, going back to I forget what it's called, but the standoff we had in Oregon, wasn't it Oregon?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
Nevada,
all of
actually.
that, that
Mhm.
became a shit show. Uh, it's it's a really uphill battle. I appreciate how you're describing it, and it sounds doable, but maybe the fact that it hasn't really happened is indicative of the fact that you've got roadblocks. Now, let's let's put that aside for the moment because when you talk about roadblocks, I wanted to have you on the show because there's a lot of crazy shit going down. Sorry, my French,
Mhm.
but to do with Tina Peters, and I'm very concerned over that situation. I think that the white hats are I understand a lot of their rationale. This is really like The Godfather. That's the way I see it. We're looking at two opposing forces. We call them SSP. I call them SSP. The deep state on one hand, the cabal, and on the other hand is the Trump white hat military space force, predominantly taking the lead, I think, on that, and Trump. Okay. And so when we're looking at that situation, we get promises, 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 and we get a lot of smoke and mirrors saying people have gone to get Gitmo, they've been, executed. Hillary's dead, this one's dead, Biden's dead, all these people are dead, but the general populace does not know that and certainly wouldn't agree. Okay. So And then we have this problem with supposedly anybody they supposedly killed through tribunals, executed. This would even be considered probably breaking the law from some standpoint, with our crazy system. Even if it's military, it could still be breaking the law. And so they're not being straight with the people. Okay. So we know that much. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that this is a shit show. All right. At this point, today, tomorrow, we're supposed to have a whole change in the monetary system, whether that's ever going to happen. We've gotten promises for like 8 years. Okay. There are people out there who publish blogs. I'm not going to name them by name, but you know who they are. And they've been saying every week, literally, that this is all going to happen that week. And it never does. And they're doing it again. So this is my issue. My issue is that we're dealing with a system where both sides are breaking the law behind the scenes now. I think we could come to that conclusion. Whatever so-called laws we ever had in this United States. And our judicial system is completely corrupt. And I think most
Mhm.
people would agree with that statement. Okay. So we need to look at this. And to me, the Tina Peters was a case in point. It's sort of a bellwether, if you will, telling you where you're at in your current advance, okay, where we're at. You understand? If they were
Mhm.
able to move heaven and earth to get her out of there, I know that they were able to give Epstein, house arrest, even though
Mhm.
he even got to leave part of the day. I mean, this is when he was a convicted pedophile in Florida, but they can't do
Mhm.
shit for Tina Peters. And I just see this dichotomy as being insane. And it supposedly reverts to states' rights when in fact it was a federal election that she went in and tried to secure for the White Hats, whether, evidence that the vote was being stolen of a federal election. And to me, I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems logical. If she was doing evidence for a federal election, then a federal court and the president can pardon her. Okay, and even Jack Smith said that. So look at this, what we're seeing here, and I'm not trying to belittle your efforts here, but I am asking, as a colleague in this media shit show, what do you think? Where do you think we're at? And are you getting any inside knowledge as to what's blocking these people? Are they afraid they're going to get killed? Because, not to go on forever, I'm going to stop. But the bottom line is that the way this works, just like The Godfather, is you take out one of ours, we take out one of yours. Well, in theory, if they
Mhm.
have been taking some of these people out, like Hillary, et cetera, then what is the blowback from that? We don't even know. We don't even know if it's happened. We don't know if the clones are really out there or not. I mean, a lot of us would testify to the fact that we believe it is. Gene Decode would swear up and down that we're going into military, to underground bases and rescuing children, et cetera. But again, they're not bringing forward the evidence, okay, of what they're doing. And I think that's because they're afraid of blowback from not only the Illuminati when you go public. See, as long as you're secret, they don't give a shit because they can just, you know, run riot over whatever you do and pretend it never happened, which is what they're doing. So, thoughts on what I just said?
Well, again, who knows what the actual truth is? We can speculate. We can put puzzle pieces together. A lot of the puzzle pieces I put together were from the Q operation, and I don't really care what people think of it or say about it, whether they disagree or agree, like it or don't. Doesn't matter to me. I think for myself, for 3+ years, I followed it in real time, and proof after proof after proof legitimized the operation. And again, when you have the clowns in America or the mainstream media start running the white flag up the pole, yelling the words conspiracy theory, great. That just goes to show you that's their line of attack when they have to discredit something that has credibility. Um, so when I look at that, I look at a number of things that pop up that come to mind, and I'm speaking specifically that outside of tactical civics, I'll address them both. But one thing, specifically, we were told that they, meaning the white hats, the guys fighting to get our republic back, said we will not make a move until we can guarantee the safety of the American people. We've got Samson option nukes planted all over the world that Israel has stashed everywhere to force people to do what they want them to do. And if we don't, if we do whatever, shut off the money or stop agreeing with them or whatever, they can just detonate a nuke. That's how we got the Department of Homeland Security. That's how we. That's how after the Bush, Cheney, Clinton, Mossad, CIA cabal that took down the towers in 2001, we had Michael Chertoff became DHS, head of DHS. Well, what I'd learned then,
The
these people
fox
that were putting
guarding the hen
putting
house. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, putting these people who were dual citizen U.S. Israeli citizens, dual citizens. And so, yeah, that kind of criminal activity going on. From what I understand, Bush was threatened. Either you give us this agency and put everything else under its umbrella, or we're going to detonate a Samson option nuke. Okay, so Bush was adamantly opposed to it, and then he acquiesced to it. There's a lot of reasons I'm sure in between. So we have that issue right there. The second thing is we grew up in a culture primarily post 80s where every military action taken was projected onto the world stage in front of the entire world, including the enemy, and we continued to suffer the military personnel losses because of a lack of informational security. So now we have an operation where they're not telling anybody shit, not even us, because they don't want anybody knowing their play-by-play stations. So therefore, they don't end up with unnecessary loss of life, which I think is absurd when you're going to tell the enemy exactly what you're going to do. That's ridiculous to me. Tell them your battle plans. So I'm okay with that. What I look at is the macro information that keeps coming. And I know I'm not going to be in full agreement with everything that happens as this thing is being handled, but I also realize this monster is more enormous than we can possibly fathom. And yes,
Yes.
they are dealing with the capacities on the other side that they do, but they also are very strictly operating under the legal system, whether it's just or not, right or not, admiralty or common law or not, it doesn't matter. We are under an admiralty maritime law system, and they are using their weapon against them. They are going to make sure that the validity and the authenticity and the cleanness of this operation can never be disputed 100, 500 years from now, saying, well, they broke these laws, therefore we can go back in and take the country over, or whatever. They want to make sure that if they did have to drag any of this through the court, they would lose in every court on earth because it was done within the confines of the illegitimate laws that these scumbags in Congress have passed for the last 100 years. They use their bullshit to put them, all, either behind bars or on the sidelines forever. So that's why I still have a measure of patience with all of it because I understand that there's so much I don't understand. From the tactical civics side, we haven't had any roadblocks. There's a strict plan to roll this thing out. We are not rushing in to get people into grand juries yet. You have to build the infrastructure. And that infrastructure is necessary. If we're truly going back to the republic, the constitutional republic, nothing gets done until that's done. So people say, well, if you're really not going to be able to impact this movement or this dynamic, and why are you spending your time? It's got to be done anyways. If we are going back to the original architecture of the republic, whereby we, the people, have the power, the only thing in the Constitution that gives us that is the constitutional county grand juries backed up by a duty required certified standing militia. So whether that happens in time to help us on this front doesn't matter to me. My opinion is people have to do something. What if what I'm doing doesn't work? I don't give a shit if it doesn't work. It's better to be doing something because at least you can change direction if you're in motion. If you figure out things aren't working or you're putting your time somewhere where it's not going to bring any results, great. You can make decisions and redirect and gain momentum if you're already in motion. If you're sitting on your ass waiting for Jesus or somebody else down the street to do it, it's never going to get done. Never.
Okay.
So that's
Well,
why I do what I do.
now I but while you're talking about that and doing whatever you're doing along those lines, I am getting more top level information. Okay. And today somebody called me up to say that there's a quantum, I think they called it a quantum brain, but it's basically going to be sucking up, and I think it's already done it, all of us, which was part of the COVID exercise, was to put this physical stuff in you, the nanographenolic oxide, that actually facilitates the connection, the direct connection with, I call it the Borg, they call it the quantum brain. I don't care what you call it. And this is happening. Okay. So when you look at that and you look at that's actually the higher levels. And there is word on the street, according to financial people that I talk to, that they're trying to change the financial system right now, and they're making big announcements, or people are. Even Juan was a few days ago, saying something big's going to happen. But then here we are, and nothing happens so far. So there is something going on, I think, which is blocking a lot of stuff. There's just to describe the playing field a little more. The person that I talked to also says, he says, and he always says this, that the right to issue is control over our monetary system. So we work on a global stage. Our trade is global, all right? Keeping countries functioning and interacting. This is how we survive, okay, on the planet. This is planetary. So when I look at this situation and I see that these globalists who have had control of the monetary system going back, tens of millions of years, literally, that's the evidence, okay? That the Basel, Switzerland families, that certain other of the 13 families, and, the Committee of 300, and, all of that, Coleman's book, you might have read it. In other words, what we're talking about is Trump and the White Hats have an operational plan, but it does appear to me, at least, they're being blocked at certain key junctures. Otherwise, we'd be a lot farther along. And I am concerned right now. Even today, Benjamin Fulford made a video. Now he's run by the Triad. So, I'm one of the first persons who ever interviewed him in person in Japan. Okay. So I know probably more about him than most. I can say he's a good guy, but he is admitted that he was taken over and controlled by the Triad. He's now living in Canada, but he's trying to promote some kind of Canadian government. He knows that Canada is merging with the United States. Mark Richards, one of my witnesses, told me this like 5 years ago before anyone breathed a word of it. He said, United States is taking over Canada. At the time, I thought, that sounds insane, but it's now proving to be the case. So when I look at this, I'm looking from, it's kind of funny because you're looking from the feet on the ground angle, and I'm looking from the higher whistleblower angle that's reporting on what the players are doing. And then when we meet with, like, with the case with Tina Peters. If they can't handle that case, if they can't get that case turned around somehow, some way, and it's a bogus case, then, and at least get her in house arrest, because she's like a 70, 80-year-old woman, I don't know how old, and then health problems, cancer, this and that and the other. So even under, I don't know what they call it, sympathy, law or whatever, then there's outlets for Trump to pardon her, okay, or to at least put her in a better space than in prison, all right? And recently, she made some kind of motion about some local Colorado chapter or something, doing something, and there was blowback within the prison system she's in, and they put her in, like, in solitary. now she's out of solitary, but they literally did this. So this is a game. She's a pawn in a game. All right. And in a sense, I think a lot of people can relate because we're all pawns in this game right now. And I just want to say that, they just killed, um, you know, James Rink, who ran the Super Soldier conferences. And I spoke at that one that he just had. And he was texting me right a day or two before he died. And it's clear to me that they killed him. Okay. It was started about 9 months ago when he started to do the conference. And then it escalated and took down his health steadily from then. But I believe, and I have a witness who was close to him right prior to his death, who believes they murdered him. Now, the person doesn't know how they murdered him, but the final coup de grace, whatever you want to call it, was done like on Saturday. Literally, it appears Saturday. He was alive on
Mhm.
Friday, but on Saturday. So I just want to say that now I'm going to give you some more information. I have one of my top whistleblower contacts who disappeared completely in July. I think it was July. And I've been trying to reach him since then, calling, texting, everything. I have never been out of touch with him in all the years I've known him. He's always gotten back to me. So this was very unusual. I had a psychic, I don't know what the hell's kind of experience it was that gave me some kind of message. He was in trouble right before when he disappeared. I finally got in touch with his wife. She thought everything was fine. That's what she said to me. She had no idea why he wasn't communicating. But now I've talked to other people in this sector that we're in who also knew him, and they have not heard from him. So he's MIA. And I believe, and then I got word from a person I trust saying he's now he's been put in hiding. Now, I think he's probably put in hiding against his will because he's a very, I don't know what you want to call it, aggressive, willful person. He doesn't like to be shut up. He doesn't go public, but he does, talk to me behind the scenes and has for years and years and years. And his information is stellar, tried and true. So that's another domino on the board that I'm
Hmm.
looking at. I understand we're looking at different
Yeah.
boards, right? So what does that tell you? And then I'll tell you that Richard Hoagland he has a news group and
Mhm.
he's got a show that he normally does on weekends, and he has not been able to do his show since I think it was July. They shut him up. They took down his electricity. They took down his internet. They do this every week. It's like some kind of
Mhm.
regular thing. And he's part of the NASA Dark Magicians group. So he's even an insider, but he's a good guy, I believe. And he wanted to talk to the people. He's been talking to a group of scientists that somehow got on that list with around 70 people. It's a
Mhm.
list, but like a lot of the lists I'm on, nobody talks or they talk very little. They all talk within
Mhm.
the lines. They never say anything of value, in my view, not like me. I put out what I think is really valuable stuff. They all just kind of like look at it as far as I know, and even Hoagland admitted they don't talk. So, and the 107 groups that we've been in, maybe you're on different ones than I am, but in those, nobody talks. Nobody talks.
Mhm.
It's hilarious. They're all afraid to talk. Now, what kind of fucking world do we have going on here when I'm just giving you a litany of stuff? But I'm looking at this and I'm concerned. Another person, I'm not going to name his name because I don't want to start a rumor, but has not replied to me, who would have replied to me. I think he's been silenced. And, I don't know how many other people are being silenced right now. We're having Three Eye Atlas, a craft that's incoming that on the 19th of December will be closest to Earth, supposedly, and we'll be releasing a bunch of little craft, calling probes or whatever the fuck you want to call them. This is supposedly a big, invasion, blue beam, who knows what, and all the indicators have been pointing to Anunnaki. And Anunnaki were in charge of us and changing our genetics. They're reptilian humanoids. Okay, they're carved into the temples in Egypt and Iraq and Iran. In case you don't know about them, I can't remember what we've talked about, Scott. I apologize in the past. And just saying, so this is the scenario we're under. NASA is lying to everyone. I have a
Well,
person
exactly.
who has his own telescopes, who is an expert with his telescopes. I've stood right next to him, looked through his telescopes connected to a computer screen, and seen craft, plenty of craft. He's shown the surface of Saturn, the surface of the moon in detail that NASA never shows. He's definitely afraid he's going to be arrested. Wonderful, guy. I've been sharing all his photos with Hoagland and that group. What do they say? Nothing. Nothing. So what are we doing? Are we back in Nazi Germany where you don't speak up because you're going to get arrested and dragged off to jail? What's happening?
That's a good question. I can't, I'm obviously not aware of those things that in the field you operate in, so I can't really comment to that. Um, Again, the podcast world is notorious for having answers when they don't know the answers, right? So I don't make shit up. I don't make projections or put out dates or any of that stuff. I think it's the dumbest thing that I've seen in our movement over and over and over and over. I don't know how many times even Godlewski put out Trump will be back in the White House July 1st or January. All this nonsense for 3, 4 years. People like that never, ever, anything ever they ever said comes to fruition, yet they still have people listening to them. I'm like, that's the problem. That's the state of our country. When people over and over and over tell you things are going to happen, they don't, and people still listen to them. I'd be walking away from everybody. So
Well,
the
I
problem is
walk
on both
away from
sides.
people. I mean, there are plenty
Yeah.
of people. See, I don't think you should name names because some people want to
Well,
sue.
those attacks come to me, so that I name names when I'm attacked with lies and bullshit. So I'm
Okay,
going to
well,
name names.
whatever. So let
So the
me just
reality is that's
say,
not the point. That's not the point. The point isn't what isn't that. That's a caveat. The point is that uh, if people are out there giving operational information like dates of this going to happen, I don't care who says it. I believe none of these people, and even
okay.
if they're the ones that are very close to me, I don't believe any of them. You
Yeah,
know
but
why?
you're
Because my
smart,
belief is
Scott.
the side that is carrying out this operation, they ain't telling one fucking person on earth outside of that core. Nobody's going to know that because operational security is what's devastated our forces for the last 30 years. So when somebody, oh, I got this information, I have intel, like you don't have intel. You're not speaking to any intelligence officers. You're getting information from that person or that podcast, or you read that thing over there. That's not intel. That's just
Yeah, but we're
information.
talking about
So
Juan Savin also being wrong over and over again.
well, I mean, I don't know about that. I do know that
He just did it a week ago.
time,
He said Monday,
what
he thinks this financial thing will happen. I don't even remember what it was, because I didn't believe it anyway. But the point being is that I'm with you. I think that's, you know, when we're seasoned, okay, we're used to people spouting off shit and being wrong, okay? And that what I've noticed, and I don't know if I think I might have been doing this even longer than you. In the 20 years I've been doing it, we've had people come to us and, with stuff and try to predict stuff, and it never worked the way they said it would. Most people, and I'm not going to name the major people that are big, everyone follows them, likes them, whatever it is, and they say stuff, it never happens, and they never admit they're wrong. They never do,
Mhm.
ever. I've never seen one person say, except maybe Randy Kramer. He said, they tricked me. There was a time when, a year ago when there was supposed to be some kind of UFO flyover. A bunch of people were given that information. He was given it by his superiors. He really got pissed off, okay? Because he felt used and abused and he came forward and did a video. And that's honorable, okay? He
Mhm.
said to the people, they tricked me. They didn't tell me the truth, okay? So he was not happy. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying everybody means to lie. Sometimes they don't. Like in Juan's case, it's possible with that financial prediction that, he said, well, it might happen. Okay, so that wasn't saying it would happen. But there's been plenty of other times when he said it would happen and it didn't happen. I mean, we've been
Mm.
waiting on these things, I gotta say, and I don't keep a running toll of this type of thing, but I can say, look, you're smart, you've been in the business, you're a savvy soul. I understand you're honorable, but I still want to say, let's talk about this. Maybe you're not seeing people in your sector being knocked off, okay, being disappeared, being silenced. That's what you're leading me to believe. You don't see that because you're in your own private Idaho. You just don't know, or what?
No, that's not true at all. I mean, look, I've had a number of friends, Scott Bennett, you go down through the list. My
There you
father, a lot of
go.
people have been taken out during this battle.
Well,
Look,
I'm
I was
asking
attacked
you,
multiple
I'm
times.
asking you to
Yeah,
come
oh yeah,
forward with that shit.
100%. Look, I've suffered immeasurably. Energy weapons, bioweapons. I thought I was dying in a hotel room for 4 days in the first tour. My father was killed. The whole two front rows, the first two rows at my event at Penn State. The second time I went in there raining a shitstorm down in my own backyard where I grew up. The two front rows all went down. One person was critical. My whole family was sick. I was sick. I couldn't even finish the last
And
two stops
Robert
on the
David
tour.
Steele was taken out
Robert
along those
Davis still
lines.
died from that. Yeah, I mean, he died in the hospital. I
Supposedly,
mean,
he's not really
Ben
dead.
Fulford, well, maybe not. Ben Fulford's bullshit coming out of weeks ago and saying Sasha Stone killed Steele or had him killed. I'm like, you're such a
Oh,
fucking
fuck.
lunatic to say shit like that. You're out of
Yeah.
your fucking mind. I've had Ben on my show. I've always loved his stuff, but when he comes out with bullshit like that, I was with Sasha the whole time on the tour. But so I've suffered casualties in my
All
own
right.
personal life from this thing. But look how many of the people we've seen taken out since then. In fact, now
Well,
James
I've
Rank
had a
is the
lot of my
latest. I see
whistleblowers
that.
taken out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly sure that one of my favorites is William Tompkins. I'm sure when he started, that last interview you did, I'm sure that's like, okay, that's enough. Take this guy out, shut him up. I don't care if he's 94 or not. Take him out, take him out. One of
Right.
the greatest things that he said in that interview, and I've repeated this many times over the last 5 years, when that raspy voice wearing the squirrel on his head, and he says, everything taught in every education institution on this planet is a lie. And then he said it again. He said, everything taught in every education institution on this planet is a lie. That was
Yep.
the most stark message I got about the world that we live in. And it popped in my head not long after that. I'm like, he's absolutely right. I can prove it. It's really simple. Source's creation is all a working dynamic of perfection. There's no near misses here. Yet, we have a mathematical value of pi, which is 3.1444 to infinity, forever. Now, if you have to use that particular factor in an equation to chart a course, 500 light years away to hit a destination out there, and you have to use that, what's your chances of hitting your target? It's 0% because it's an almost to get you to an exact destination. There's nothing about our mathematics that we use is perfect. True quantum mathematics, as the universe is built on geometry, numbers, whatever you think it is, it's perfection. That bullshit is not. And the physics, I mean, you can go through the list. We have people spending forever in their lives trying to prove a theory, trying to prove this theorem.
Right.
And they spend that is the universe is complex, but it's also very simple once you understand the formula. It's like math versus integral calculus. Math is simple to understand, and it is that simple. But because we're off the mark in everything, we spend our lifetimes trying to prove something that's virtually unprovable, but hey, it's close enough. So this is our theory, our theorem, or whatever. So, anyways, that being said, I'm not sure why I went
Okay.
down
So
that
let me,
track.
well, I
Tompkins
have
get
another
killed.
list, and
Mhm.
maybe, you won't be really happy at the angles we're going here, and you can change the subject if you like. But I just want to
Yeah.
say that, I have a laundry list. I'm sure everyone does of, things that haven't happened that we wanted to see happen. Okay. Now, sure, we can say, okay, Trump's been in office for 1 year. Has he been in office for 1 year, or was he in office as cog? Okay. Was he cog for the 4 years that the Biden show was going on? And they acted and did not act and allowed things to happen that they knew were going to happen because they wanted to show the people, which is obviously bullshit because the people didn't learn fuck all from that. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, I'm sorry. Fauci is still walking around free, as far as I know. If he's executed at Gitmo, great. But we have no proof of that. None. Zero. Okay. Same with Hillary. I mean, the most diabolical witch, to hit the scene in centuries, right? Okay. A black witch, self-acknowledged even on that score. Um, you know, what I'm saying here is that we see the COVID desecrating. It's still killing people. It's still killing people right now. Okay, that jab is still, and it was made that way. All right. So this is the situation. I mean, I think that people have got to be more straightforward and honest. I hate this idea of the silence, that a lot of what I say is often greeted by silence, you know, and my
Mhm.
colleagues are afraid. Okay. And that reminds me way too much of Nazi Germany. Okay. And maybe the Soviet Union during certain times as well, Stalin and all that. You know, in other words, we have to look at that. We have to be honest about that. So the Democrats came out with this, I don't know if you, what do you want to call it, advertisement saying to our military, do not obey an illegal
Mhm.
law. Okay. Like, apropos of what? Like, out in the middle of nowhere, they're just making a video with a bunch of people, right? All saying that. And intent is this is not this is not that Tom Cruise movie where because you think something or even say as long as you say it within legal parameters, your intent is judged and therefore you're taken out. You know, there, what is the law? What are we talking about? Okay. But on that score, Trump is saying, whether it's even the real Trump at this point, we have no idea. Okay. There's short ones, fat ones, the whole thing. I hope there's a real one out there. I really do. And I can imagine why he would be hidden most of the time in somewhere like, NORAD. But the bottom line, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. It's like we live in a house of mirrors, and the mirrors are reflecting fake scenes to us constantly. And I just read, there were two articles. One was something from Greer, who I am anything but a fan of, saying we had 7 days. That was the title. We had 7 days. 7 days to what? Like a threat to the human race, right? Well, I can understand because they put fake headlines on before it's news all the time. Nino does it all the time. Love Nino, but I got to tell you, I don't know who the fuck writes his headlines, but they are so fucking lying in headlines, and I'm sick of it. And this is what's going on. So even the alternative media is guilty, okay? Guilty at this point of lying to the public. Okay. Another video that came out, I don't know what it was, I forget what it was. I think it had an old Ben Fulford thing on it. End of the world or something like that, whatever it was saying. I mean, this
Mhm.
is this is the atmosphere we're living in, and I just want to talk about it. I just want to say, you know, and talk to somebody like you who I know is boots on the ground. You're out there in the public every day, right? Don't people come up to you and say, "What the fuck?"
Well, they don't say quite that, even though it's a Patriot Streetfighter nation, but they probably think it. They do ask, what my viewpoint is on a number of things, and I give them all the same answer. I say, I don't know any more than you do. I'm just sitting back here watching the show as it unfolds and trying to analyze it as it does. But all I can tell them is what's in my soul, what's in my heart and soul. When they ask, "Do you think we're going to win this thing?" And I've said it for 5 years, 100%. You really think so? I'm like, yeah, how about 1,000%? We win this time. Well, how do you know? I'm like, I can't articulate to you how I know, but I'm just telling you as true as I stand here right now. We win this time. This is it. And obviously, I could have this dissertation of the information we've had for years and all the research. I have a little bit of a different dynamic when it comes to analyzing what's happening because I come from the political world. So for, from 1990 until today, and 16 years was active because I was tracking my life to get to the United States Senate. At least that was my hope one day, was that was the pinnacle of what I wanted to achieve so I could serve this country there once my Navy Marine aviation contract fell apart when they cut the budgets and I became a casualty. So that was going to be my service there. But once Trump came to power, and I started to see the entire global chessboard make moves that it's never made for decades. I'm like, when
Right.
a lot of people stumbled into the Great Awakening from the Q operation, they had no background on this country's evolution for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years at all. They were asleep at the wheel. So then the Q drops start happening. I start looking at things, and then they obviously can make commentary, but they didn't have perspective. Perspective is long term, seeing the battlefield, seeing the global playing field. I could see that. I could see, like, how do you know this is real? Well, because over here, this country has never, ever done this. They would never agree to this. But all of a sudden, you see these things taking place here, 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 and here, and here. There's only one way this is happening. This is a legitimate operation because these moves globally that most people can't even see or wouldn't even know what they were looking at if they did see them are giving validation to the movement of a chess battle that has been underway forever and ever and now changing in its own right. If we look at where we are today in this world, just one thing that shows you this particular dynamic. The two weapons these global satanic powers have had, their greatest weapons forever, has been money and the veil of secrecy. Their veil of secrecy, number one, has been shattered. It's not been penetrated, it's been shattered. Because every Joe Lunchbucket, Sally Sewing Needle out there in America who knows something about what they're seeing, they're putting up Instagram videos, TikTok videos, telling the world what you and I have been telling them for years. That veil of secrecy has showed you a massive leap in the forward opposition against this satanic global order that's basically captured the planet. That number one. Number two, the money's being shut off in every way imaginable. Does it mean it's going to stick? Well, it didn't stick after the military allowed the Biden machine to quote unquote take over a faux presidency, open up the borders. Why would they do that? Why would they allow it to happen? Why? Because 80% of the Americans are still fucking lobotomized and they can't see allowing this shit to come into the country is devastating and deadly for the nation. Okay, well, let's give them a real dose to wake them up. But what about people that died? We're at war. We are at war. And in a war, there's even civilian casualties. How dare you say that? If that was your son or daughter, what? I can say it. My father was taken out. I knew my dad was going to be the first casualty of my personal war. Intrinsically, I had that premonition. My dad is going to be the first casualty. And so I am on that end of it. I do understand that. So with that being said,
Yeah,
the
but
daily
I have
news.
to say that there's times and there's times. So we have been going through this really for, if you want to put it in the conventional sense, 8 years, okay, minimum. I've been associated with the White Hat since 2010, okay, behind the scenes, before they ever went public. All right. And I also know white hats, okay, other ones that are not, necessarily known, some that are. And I believe that they're also fed up. Okay, I don't know. Did you see the roundtable that Juan and John Chambers did? I posted it everywhere. So it got a lot of notice,
I
I
did
think,
see
because of
some.
that.
Yeah, I
I
saw
might
some
have
of that.
sent it
Yeah,
to you.
you
And that
did.
had generals on it. One general is called General Holt. Okay, his
Mhm.
his name something like Rainier Holt, or I don't know if I have his name right. Anyway, but Holt is his last name. He's a youngish guy, but he was right on when he was talking, okay? And the other guys were very good as well. So these people were voicing their issues with the current administration, and they're insiders, they're white hats, okay? That's what I'm talking about. These were white hats, okay? And they're talking about the issues. There are issues, and I think if we turn a blind eye to that, we're lying to ourselves. And I think I also know that, I'm sad to say that a lot of people have been turning their backs now over the last, I would say, I've really noticed it the last 6 months, but probably the last year. So people that used to be for Trump, for the white hats, are now turning their backs. Okay. Everyone has their own deal. I'm not sitting around doing, a survey or anything, but I hear the feedback. You and I are in the public eye. I get people writing to me constantly, and they're not buying it. They after 8 years, and that's the period of time when when the Q operation was full force and people were getting supposedly awake. But now they want pay dirt, okay? They want to see someone like Tina Peters fucking freed, okay? She worked for them. They should protect her, no question. I don't give a shit how they do it, really, frankly. I mean, these guys in the round table were the same attitude as I am. Get it done. Don't fucking wait. Don't wait till she's dead, okay? And every day that goes by looks like we're getting closer to that deadline. So, I'm just maybe I'm in a different headspace because I saw what went down with James Rink. I saw what went down with my one of my long-term contacts. I see people being silenced. I'm not happy, okay? I am not happy with what I'm seeing. It's not about being frustrated. It's about, you put your energy, and I work every fucking day of my life to out the truth. That's all I do every day. And, I write articles, I do videos, I talk to people like you, et cetera, and whistleblowers and so on and so forth. I just want to say I'm voicing this for the people in general, and I appreciate, look, I've been a strong supporter of Juan through thick and thin, actually. I'm critical of him. I'm critical of his pontificating on the religious score and all that crazy shit. But, look, you know,
You're
I
fine.
mean, I take the good with the bad in the essence. With the White Hats, I'm still backing them. I still put my life on the line for them, you know. I do believe there is truth out there, okay, that there is good happening, that they are working in the right place and the right time, and they're working towards a goal, and that it's not that easy. But, we hear Juan talk like a lot about the SES, okay, but we don't hear what they're doing about it. I'm not looking for blow by blow operational secret operation information. That doesn't matter. But we want to know, especially after an operation has taken place, did they do
Mhm.
it or did the dark hats do it? That'd be nice to know. It'd be nice if they'd actually talk about this shit, but they don't. Okay. So their secrecy is on the exact same level as the dark side now. That's where we're at. Okay. So we're the people. So you've got supposedly the white hats on one side, you've got the dark hats on the other, and in the middle are the people, and they are in the dark. They are left in the dark. And worse than that, they're also deceived on a huge scale. People that could have been educated, could have woken up, didn't wake up because their chosen method was let's show them rather than
Yeah.
tell them. You know, it's bullshit. What happened with North Carolina? Did you show them? Did those people walk away going, yeah, good, glad you came in and got rid of the, illegal aliens and the child murderers? Did anyone come up and get prosecuted for being a child murderer in North Carolina? Or is it all just smoke and mirrors? This is the thing. If you want to teach people, we may differ in our attitudes towards how do you teach the people, but you're in the public, I'm in the public, okay? We know how people, take information, and some people are come back to us, they thank us, this and that. Other people maybe stay in the dark. It's a process, yeah, we know. But let's get down to it, okay? Let's actually look with a critical eye and see, is this working? Okay. What's going to be the outcome? And I can tell you, I've had dreams of the future. The white hats are going to be successful, and most of my dreams come true. But they're only going to be successful to a point. You have to understand the levels, and they know this, the levels we're dealing with. We're dealing with inner earth. We're dealing with portals into other dimensions. We're dealing with aliens from other dimensions. We're dealing with, war of worlds here, okay? Ant people who are not good guys. Sorry, JP. Like nice little sweet. Fuck that shit. Okay, let's tell the truth. Okay. So I'm just saying, reptilians, Draco, Grays, this was a plan. COVID was a gray plan. This invasion is a gray plan. I believe, okay, this is one thing I believe. You might have fun with this. I believe that the 20 million young military aged men that came into the United States and were let in by the White House as well, because they could have stopped the fucking thing on a dime if they wanted to, because Trump was cog during that time. Do not get that wrong. It's very important and it's going to come out eventually. So you don't have to agree with me. I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying here is that those 20 million young men, I believe they're turning them. I believe they're making them offers they can't refuse right now. I believe they're getting ready and military equipped to fight another war, but it's going to be a war from off-worlders, okay? From androids. This is predicted through the ages. I believe they're making use of those young men. I don't think they're just kicking out them out of the country. All right.
Mm.
So there's always a two edges to every sword kind of thing. And I just think that people need to kind of widen their sort of view, and we need to stop. I was so happy with the John Chambers roundtable because I got to see real generals, real military guys sit there and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, get the fuck out, get rid of that person if they're not getting up to speed. And then I heard Ben Fulford just in a video the other day say, talking about all the bad people on top, and he chooses Kash Patel, who I think he's a good guy. But nonetheless, he's saying, oh, he came out and testified that there was nothing to the Epstein files. Well, so did Pam Bondi, by the way. Okay. So they
Right.
both were guilty of that. But they did it because they were under orders to do that. All right. You got to understand what you're dealing with. You can't just like want to throw somebody, under the bus because they're obeying orders. And those are military orders, by the way, that he's following. Hello?
Mm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I know I'm ranting here, but do you have anything to say about this?
Well, understandably so, the frustration makes sense at your level because you see things that most people don't see because you've been at this so long. You've looked at it at, I don't want to say depths, but heights higher than most people could even fathom. Wouldn't believe most of it anyways, because they're still operating here on a plane of the surface of the earth, not knowing what's going on in higher dimensions or realms. But I I've given latitude, extreme latitude in terms of time and timing. Number one, because yes, does it seem like it's the wrong thing to do by slow walking this thing through, damage happening, people being killed by all these things, that the downside of allowing this to help people wake up. Look, the simple fact is, if the other side got their way, billions of people are gone already. Half the nation's already gone. By this date today, COVID wasn't supposed to hit till 2025. The second year, or the second half of the 8 year takedown of America, the plans that military intelligence intercepted, was Hillary taking us into nuclear conflict, sum of all fears. That was on deck. So the fact that it's going this way, yes, is it frustrating? Should we be elated? Hell yes, because the alternative was a potential constitutional military overthrow in DC in 2012, 2013, that the military was ready for one last shot to save this country. And imagine how devastating that would be. The left, look at the left. Look at Antifa, BLM, and all these other knuckleheads that are useless idiots and useless feeders to the cabal. Look what they did when they saw the good things happening under Trump, economy skyrocketing, all this great shit, yet they're still tearing the country to pieces. If they had no idea what was going on back in 2012, oh my God, we got a military takeover, and you have that all. Look at Black America. Black America turned on Obama in massive tsunami sized waves, turning away from this scumbag because they really looked and saw what did he do, quote unquote. I hate even bringing up the race thing because we shouldn't see skin, hair color, eyes, or anything. Humans are humans. But they started attacking this bag of shit for all the stuff he did that was detrimental to them. You have Eric Holder, Justice Department head. You've got, he's black, Obama's black, passed not one single prison reform bill to make it easier on Black America. Who's been shafted like Malcolm X? And I've been saying it's a white man's kept the black man down. The white liberal Democrat for 70 years have kept the blacks down. They're still using them as cannon fodder. So all these grievances we have, all this shit that is this massive ball of chaos has to be unwound slowly and methodically enough to give people a chance, in my opinion, to catch their breath. Humanity is so far behind spiritually and
I don't buy
intellectually
that.
on
I
this
mean, I
planet.
appreciate that,
Let me
sir.
finish. You don't have to, but let me finish.
All right.
They are so far behind. Look what it took to get. I saw the opening happen when Trump was running in a primary in 2015. It was remarkable. 100,000 Union Democrats changed party affiliation, changed and registered to the Republican Party to vote for Trump. I'm like, holy Mary, Mother of God. This is like a massive earthquake. Union Democrats saying, we're leaving the party to vote for Trump. You start seeing this exodus. Those sound like big numbers, but the reality is, those are people that are aware of the geopolitical dynamic in the world they live in, at least locally here or in the country. The rest of America, as you know, Carrie, are asleep at the wheel. 80% of the podcasters who are out here fighting this fight, they were asleep at the wheel their entire lives until the Q operation hit. Look what it took for them to say, holy shit. And it wasn't even their thinking or intellect. It was the momentous wave of the people who were always on watch, could see this happening. And because, look, if there was just a half a dozen people following the Q op and reporting on it, the podcast movement would never happen. Why? The reason it happened, because the spotlight, and I think it was Janine said it best, the new celebrity world's a podcast world. As this big spotlight came in on some people with this information, everybody started running. I'm gonna be a podcast. I see people's their goal coming out of high school. I want to be a social media influencer. Like,
Yeah, but
wow, that's a
excuse me,
real
but
high
I
mark to shoot
started that.
for.
I started it. Okay.
What?
Project Camelot started that before Q was even on the scene. Okay.
Oh,
The
well, I'm
podcast
no, no.
movement,
You didn't bring all these podcasters to the movement. The Q operation did. All these
bullshit.
podcasters that knew nothing prior to Q
Camelot
operation,
started the
they never.
trend. Okay.
I
I'm
listen, I'm
sorry.
not saying, look, I don't take credit for anything I didn't do, and
I
I'll give it where
know
it's due. I'm just
back in
telling you,
2005,
it did.
the White
Yeah,
Hats
but the
weren't on the
podcast world
scene.
exploded when you came on. It didn't explode. It exploded from 2018
It
forward.
was
It
building,
exploded.
and it's because of that our movement that started being truth tellers, telling the truth through
Okay.
video. Okay, so
It,
just
I
trim it
didn't say
down.
building, Carrie. I
I
said it
didn't say
exploded.
they
It
joined a
exploded.
political movement, but in a sense they
Right.
were the political movement. The political movement, and just to take it outside, and I appreciate all that you just said, and that's all, you can give the
Mhm.
brownie points to them, that's fine. But the bottom line is that we're here now.
Carrie, that's an insult to say I'm giving brownie point. I don't kiss anybody's ass on a planet.
No,
That is
that's my
unfair.
choice of
Don't
words.
say that to
I'm
me.
not saying you're
Well, I don't
giving
like
that.
it.
I
I
said
don't like
I'm
it. I
giving
don't
that.
kiss anybody's ass. I don't go for brownie
I'm
points for any
giving the
person
white
on earth. I don't give
hats
a shit who they
those,
are.
okay, kudos, brownie points, whatever you want to say for back then. I'm not talking to you, Scott. I'm talking about the
Okay.
information. Okay. It's not about you, not at all. Okay. So I apologize if you got the wrong idea there. I am saying I give the white hats those brownie points. I'm taking that on
Mhm.
myself. Those are my words. Okay.
Right.
It's sarcasm, but I think it works. The point I'm trying to make is that we're here now. Okay. And I appreciate we can argue over who were truthers and what were truthers doing and when did they merge into the party and get political and all that. That's fine. And Trump definitely deserves, and the White Hats and Q, a lot of kudos down those lines. Okay. There's no doubt about it. We're in a movement, but this movement has a lot of, it's kind of like a centralized area with a lot of roads all leading to the same place. Okay. So we don't need to argue about which road was more meaningful. Okay. For you, Q was important. I know tons of people, including myself. I took one look at Q and said, they're just talking about stuff I already know and just, lost interest. Okay, some people dug it and they got, their attention came on board with that. But there are people today that still don't know what the fuck Q is. Okay. So you can go any direction you want with all that. All I'm saying is that that was back then, and this is now. And now, frustration doesn't really cover it. I'm not frustrated. In fact, most of the time, I don't even think about it anymore because it's not worth my time. Okay. Because at the moment, it's not in the obvious sense going anywhere. We can't work with this. Okay. We can't. I appreciate you're doing your bit. Okay. And maybe you see change in that area. But as far as I'm concerned, on these upper levels and what's really happening behind the scenes is very concerning. And I don't think that the people have been educated properly or enough, okay, by Q, the white hats, or you name it, okay? I just don't. I don't think, I take issue with the way this whole program was run. And, I know that there's generals who agree with me and there's generals who agree with you. And some people, I know I was told early on, and I mean early on, like in 2010, keep in mind, the white hats want to keep as much of the status quo as possible. That's actually what I was told by a white hat, okay? That they wanted to change things, but they didn't want actually to change American life all that much because they're old. Predominantly, they were older, okay? Maybe even retired, etc. What I'm trying to say here and kind of highlight in this conversation is that enough already. Okay, we've been doing this, playing this game and playing it by their rules, all right? They're laying the rules, okay? Secrecy, total secrecy. Well, that's the same with the dark hats. Then now they're doing, as far as we know, military tribunals, substituting clones. How are you going to come and rectify that without just putting out another lie? In 5 years, in 10 years, whenever it is, okay? This is a problem. They've actually backed themselves up into a corner that's going to have to be unraveled somehow, sooner probably than later. So, that's what I have to say. I appreciate that you want to give them kudos for what they have done in the past. I don't think anyone who's watching this, especially, people that are like MAGA, would disagree with you, right?
Well, I'm not, again, I'm going to stay in this issue. I'm not giving anybody kudos. I'm making a statement that I didn't get to finish the point on. The point is that there weren't enough soldiers on the battlefield the entire 35 years I've been at this. I didn't see any. I was frustrated because for 16 years it was political. Post that, always digging, researching, trying to tell people around me, this is the shit that's going on in this country. If you're only focused on how much money you can make, how many cars you can buy, and houses and all that shit, it ain't gonna matter. You're gonna lose the country. We're gonna lose the place. So by the time I finally decided I'm not sitting by anymore, I'm probably gonna be completely ineffective, but at least my soul's feeling better because I'm starting a radio show and I'm going to rain a shitstorm down and say shit that nobody wants to say. And then, of course, the podcast happened. But what I saw was when the spotlight hit the podcast world, there were so many people ran toward it, not for the right reasons, not to save the country. They wanted to get involved on all the excitement and the spotlight in the podcast world. And a lot of those people don't know shit, but they read what other people say, they watch your shows, and they come and regurgitate and then make shit up because they don't know how the country runs. They don't know how the world runs. They don't know what the geopolitical dynamic on the planet has been, not for a second in their entire life. Bring that non-perspective to this important movement and the information that it requires accuracy to give to the people. They're doing a disservice. There's many doing a service, others are making a disservice. And now people, because they don't have any long-term background to be analytical on how things are moving, they got to make shit up to get views to keep their channel alive. They just make shit up
Right.
because they got a taste of the drug. They love the attention of the podcast world, so they make shit up so their channels don't drop off. Man, my channel's dropped off because I don't cover the minutia like I used to because I'm bored to death. I focus on the spiritual side of what we have to accomplish if we're going to ascend more than anything else outside of tactical civics. But again, I have no choice for me personally but to give latitude because what's been planted in my mind. We'd seen in those, I read them all. I followed them in real time, studied, analyzed. And when they say at least once, maybe twice, understand misinformation is real. Misinformation is necessary. That plants a seed. Okay, again, it's the deception of war. So are they saying things, even the white hats saying things that we might expect to come to fruition, but they don't? My understanding is that they've done stuff like that to see what moves the other side is going to make to mitigate these moves, and they smoke themselves out. It's part of their smoke out operation to watch and put something out. We're all running to it like, oh, this is awesome, and they're making moves to get away from it, and then they can see them and capture them in the process.
Yeah, but
So I give some latitude to that.
do you understand that this process that you're talking about that they're going through has been their MO from, for the last, I'm using 8 years, but it's more than 8 years, okay? So it goes back before 2016, okay? And I'm not even
Mhm.
counting the years. I mean, we're talking before Trump even got in office, they were starting their movement, okay? So I'm
Mhm.
saying here, do you really think at this late juncture that either side, either side is getting deceived by the other side because they're all using the exact same motives, the same modus operandi? There's,
Mhm.
are they deceived? Okay, how many people know that Charlie Kirk was not killed? Raise your hand. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're lying. Candace is losing her mind. I figured they hired her to be losing her mind, okay? To be misleading or trying to mislead the fucking, Israelis and get them in a huff and all this kind of crazy shit. Um, and the Macrons and, I mean, it's really, it's become a super shit show. I mean, I see it. I think everyone sees it. I know that there's still normies, there's still people that don't see it, but there are a lot of people, really a lot, who really do see it. And if you don't think the dark magicians with their fucking track record, as well as their AI that they're using, the
Mhm.
AIs are coming to the same conclusion. They're using the same exact tactics on each other day in and day out. It's getting old. A new thing has to have happen. Something is going to change the equation here. And I don't think it's doing the same thing they've been doing for 8 years. I really don't. I think they're going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat. They're going to have to do something that is going to change the equation. Because otherwise, you got dark against dark at this point. They're both dirty. And that's the Godfather. That's it. You know, we're at a
Well, again,
stalemate, if you will.
maybe. Um, But we also listen to some of these whistleblowers tell us that the Off-Planet Alliance was in total shambles and some bad shit happened and whatever. But then a year later, they're making some really strong moves. They've obviously made a comeback. So I think the enormity of this is so massive that it's just going to take. Look, if they would have told us, say 2018, 2019, even 2020, hey folks, just so you know, uh, it's going to take 10 years. Everybody would have walked away. Why? Because we're a microwave society,
Mhm.
quick, instant, easy, everything. Quick, instant, or easy, or I'm out. Look, Carrie, we're in 2025. Look in 2021 because the world didn't turn into Kumbaya Eden. People are like, F this bullshit. I'm out. right? I don't know how many times I've been accused, you said this is going to happen. Like, go fuck yourself. I've made two predictions from day one I started broadcasting. Trump was going to be winning. They would say Biden was winning, and Fox News is going to stab him in the back. Those are the predictions that I made. And when I pass information on that comes from somebody else, I say, look, this is what I'm being told. I can't verify it or validate it. Yet I got dipshits like this knucklehead on here, whatever his name is. I named him shithead in your chat because that's what he is, saying stupid shit. Just this moron like this guy here saying the same shit. You said this, like, go fork yourself. This is the bullshit we have to deal with. You
Right.
talk about the stupidity. It's the clowns that jump in here to try to stir up shit. We're working our lives away, you and I both, and a lot of good people in the chat room consistently feeding information to everybody they know that we're bringing to them. And we got to deal with these shitheads like that are coming in here to muddy waters. And then all the shitheads out here that we, the public, in the public, we always have to deal with too, whether they're mainstream media or leftist Democrats. There's just going to, in my opinion, this back and forth is going to go for a while. And I like you, I believe there's going to be one cataclysmic event that finally sets it in motion. What is that going to be? I don't have a clue. Is it going to be the implosion of the US dollar or the collapse of the economy? I still think, and I hate to say it because I don't deserve it and you don't either. And a lot of people on this watching this don't deserve it. We need an economic ass beating like this country's never seen to wake people the fuck up. Because you know what? I just watched the nation who finally stood on principle and said, all this bullshit coming from the NFL or these sports teams flipping off the flag and all that, just being that disrespectful. I quit watching pro sports. I don't watch any of them. I got better things to do than watch these people get rich. And I watched the NFL have empty stadiums around the country. People like, F you. What are they doing now? Man, every Sunday they're in front of the TV again. We're taking pictures on Facebook. Here's me at the next football game. Oh, so you're really a person of principle. Yes, it certainly worked because you're right back to doing what you did before. How's that help the country? It's the biggest trafficking event in the year is the Super Bowl. And what does billions of fucking people do? Go and watch the Super Bowl. So all I can say is the rest of the country has no reason to bitch about anything because they're working with the enemy and for the enemy and propping up the enemy,
Yeah,
buying
but
their
I
shit,
I
going
think
to
there are
watch
a
their
lot of
games.
people hurting right now. A lot of people are, are losing jobs, money, health, you
Mhm.
name it.
Yeah.
This country has been hit really hard.
Mhm.
I don't think that they're profiting off the bullshit. It's getting harder and harder to buy groceries, and that's on every podcast you hear. Um, you know,
Mhm.
I think that regular people on both sides of the aisle, okay, and look, I live on the West Coast. I can't even believe some of the words I see coming out of these people's mouth around here, okay? Just unbelievable stuff. And I just watched this guy who won like best screenplay of 2025 or something like that. He believes that Obama is like a legitimate guy, that he was born in this country. I mean, that's the level, of intellect, okay? They're giving each other, kudos and awards and all ceremonies and shit. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about, okay? This is not this is it is a shit show. And just, I think it just feels good to say it. I appreciate your time. I'm not going to keep you much longer. Scott, you have some closing, remarks. You go right ahead. I've kind of said my bit here, but this was not an interview, so don't go, ranting because I talked. Oh my God, the interviewer actually had an opinion. No, this was a conversation among equals, okay? We're colleagues. I've known Scott now for years and years, okay? So just want to say, thank you for watching. Hope this kind of touched some bases for some people on both sides of the aisle and, whatever. I mean, we're going to keep on keeping on, but if you don't criticize both sides and try to get the white hats to actually come forward with the real truth. If we don't push for the truth, it ain't going to happen. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, your turn, Scott.
100%. Look, you're one of the most heroic people out there in the movement because you will not put up with any head fakes, deception. You'll call out anybody. You'll call out Christ if he was standing in front of you if you saw bullshit in his message. I know you would, and that's admirable. My message is this: is that if we want to if we want to completely dismantle this global machine, to me, it's not just about the white hats, the military, other people fighting this battle. This is an ascension battle. And if we all could tick our consciousness up like 3 degrees, a billion people, we would bring the collective consciousness up so high on the planet that my belief is the enemy would start moving in retreat and they wouldn't even know why. It's because the vibration is at such a height that in a space that they, in a quantum field, they can't operate in effectively. They don't even know why they're losing confidence. I think that if we were to raise it high enough, we would demolecularize all of them. They just disappear. They go away. Now, I am very confident we're not going to see that elevation happen. But in the meantime, what are you doing for your spiritual ascension? Mine is being elevated by out here fighting the battle, whether I'm fighting the right fights or not. The fact is, intent is the only thing that counts. Your intent, hopefully intellectually, you can figure out what's the best choice, best plan. But sitting back watching this thing does not raise your spiritual vibration. Doing something, anything, something, get active. We've had a nation sitting on the sidelines while it was being dismantled and destroyed while we're watching it happen. Oh, what time is that soap opera on? Oh, yeah, I can't forget that. Who's playing the 49ers today? Oh, okay. And this is the attention span we got for the takeover of the only country on the planet right now that can save the world. That's what drives me nuts. That's why I spend all of my time being the example, running around the country at my expense, millions of my money. I could have built my ranch out by now. I've not built a building on a 31-acre ranch. I put steel fencing, pond, pads, road, all that shit's been sitting there for a while. But I'm not out there building my barn, build my shop, build my house out there. Why? Because I need to fuel that bus. I need to stay on the road and I need to show people we have to take action. We have to do something. Because if I use my money to do that, okay, great. I like my ranch. And oh, this is a nice view to watch the world and the country burn. Hey, this is great. I don't have any interest in that. That time will happen. But I'm hoping I'm setting an example for people. Do something. I walked away from elected politics in 2006 after 16 years. I didn't do nothing. I always continued to focus on the elections and all these kind of things, get people out to vote, whatever. But it wasn't until finally I saw the end game. They're going to burn the country down. And I mean, think about starting a radio show, naming it, creating it. You don't know if you're going to get your head shot off and be a complete embarrassment. People won't even listen to you, make fun
I
of you on
think I
social
do
media.
know.
Yeah, well, and I had that too. I mean, I remember the lady who was making fun of me on Facebook, like, look at this guy. He only has like a 1,200 subscribers on his channel, blah, 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 attacking me, making fun of me. Next week, I do my first live stream ever. It goes completely nuclear and puts Patriot Streetfighter on the map all over the world. How do you like that, bitch? Yeah, I could have sat back and did nothing, but I wouldn't have been able to say that to that knucklehead. So, and again, you don't have to do what Carrie does, or I wouldn't want to do what Carrie does, but I don't have the balls. You don't have to do what I do,
Right.
but you have to do something. And in my opinion, that something is confronting these assholes sitting on school boards. The dumbest people in America sit on school boards. The shit that they've allowed happen to our kids is unforgivable. I don't have
Right.
kids, but I've done it. City councils, boards of super, get in front of these scumbags. You don't do it one time, videotape and say, look, I did it. You get 500 people a month showing up in front of these assholes. Trust me, they're going to get nervous. They're going to say, holy shit, they're looking at us. They're pissed. They're fine. They're going to start thinking that you know stuff that they did that you don't know. And they're going to get scared and they're going to start backing off. My example, hopefully, is to show people this is your country. If it goes down, how are you going to feel? If it goes down, I'm going to feel okay. I'll be sad, but I fought my ass off. I never have to worry about, I don't have grandkids. I'm not likely not going to, but I'll never have to have the situation that I'm gonna have to visit in my lifetime with my grandkids sitting on my lap and say, Grandpap, what were you doing the day America lost my freedom? I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that
Right.
because I know I'm doing something. That's the only thing that counts, doing something. So, Carrie, it's always a pleasure. Um, sometimes you get on podcasts and you're playing table tennis, with people back and forth with Carrie Cassidy. It's fucking dodgeball. You better be ready. Your head might come off.
No, it's just really, I think, basically a pussycat. But anyway,
Oh, folks, I
sometimes
caught
a
her in a
tiger,
lie. I
a
caught Carrie
tiger.
Cassidy in a lie. She says she's a pussycat. She lied to you for the first time ever. I'm telling you right now.
I have friends who say that when they meet me, but whatever. Okay. So thank you very much for being here. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night and, you know, go out there swinging and join the fight. Yeah, I think that's a good word. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Great to see you, Carrie. Thanks, sweetheart.
Okay. Bye-bye.